broadcast on WRFPLP 101.9 FM.
Okay, I think we're through our technical difficulties and we have a quorum, so I'll bring the meeting to order here. Welcome to the July meeting of the Waterways Parks Commission. First item of business on the agenda is approval of minutes from the June 24th, 2020 meeting. Are there any additional corrections to the minutes?
Yeah, can you hear me? This is Ellen.
Yes, Ellen.
Under the Boyd Park vote, I voted, actually mine was an abstention, and I probably forgot to unmute myself when I said that.
Okay, which item, which letter number that one again?
That was for Boyd Park.
Oh, 6, maybe?
So,
On the second page, so I'll make that page.
yes, we will change that. You abstained and then everybody else voted in favor. We will make that correction.
Yeah, sorry about that. I think I said something and didn't have my mic on.
Sure, no problem. Okay. Anything else to add or change to the minutes? If not, is there a motion to approve the minutes as amended? Someone's unmute and move to approve the minutes.
This is Jenny Sterling. I'll move to approve the minutes as revised.
And a second?
Seconded.
Okay, Jenny and Alan, all in favor?
Aye.
And,
Aye.
okay, minutes with the correction are approved. Moving on to new business. The first item is recommendation for the sale of property at 1805 Menominee Street. The department number should be here, and that's Christine. Okay. Let me unmute you, Christine.
Hey, Josh.
Yes.
I don't think your mic is on.
Oh, I'm sorry. My mic was off. Hopefully, I'll just re-announce the business item. New business. First item is a recommendation for the sale of property at 1805 Menominee Street, parcel 04-0304, and that would be with Christine. I will try to unmute you. Okay, Christine, you're now unmuted if you want to proceed.
Thank you. Before you this evening for review and recommendation is the declaring of 1805 Menominee Street excess land and authorizing the sale. That property is the location for the Flying Eagle Ski Club. The City of Eau Claire and the Flying Eagle Ski Club had a lease agreement that expired March 15th of 2020. Within that agreement that was originally initiated in 2010, there was contemplation for the sale of the property. Both parties mutually have interest in doing the sale transfer. So included in the packet was the land disposal report. I would be happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you, Christine. Are there any questions from commission members regarding the recommendation of the sale of property?
I have a question. This is Susan.
Yes, go ahead, Susan.
I noticed in the proposal about the sale that it says that the origin of the purchase isn't known, and I would think this is part of the Shaw Lumber Company. So is it important that you know that, or is it important for something like this?
So the sale of the property was reviewed by all staff. They still felt that it was reasonable to go ahead with the sale. So I think we are okay.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions from the commission members for Christine? Seeing none, thank you, Christine, for the information. Is there a motion to approve the recommendation of the sale of property?
John moves.
John moves. Is there a second to approve?
Ron will second.
Okay, John and Ron. Is there any further discussion amongst the commission about the movement? Seeing none, I'll put it to a vote. All those in favor of the recommendation, please vote aye.
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 Okay. And any opposed?
Aye.
And none opposed? Okay, the item, the motion passes for part A. Item B under new business tonight is recommendation on rezoning and site plan for a mixed-use development northeast of the Eau Claire River and North Barstow Street. Pat?
Good evening, this is Pat Ivory here. Bolton and Mink Incorporated, in coordination with the City of Eau Claire, is requesting approval of a rezoning from P Public to Central Business District Plan, and then also approval of a site plan for a mixed-use development located between North Barstow Street and North Farwell Street, and located on the north side of the Eau Claire River. The city's recreational trail and the greenway extends along the south side of the project and then north of the river. You can see that on the map here. The area that we're looking at rezoning is shaded in pink. And you can see Barstow and Farwell Street on either side of it. Here's an aerial of the parcel right now, again with Barstow on the west side, Farwell on the east side, the Eau Claire River to the south, and then our greenway separated between the river and the Railroad Street lot, which currently is a public parking lot. The parcel is currently owned by the City of Eau Claire. Approximately 12 months ago, the city prepared a request for proposal to seek applications to redevelop the parking lot into a mixed-use development. The proposal submitted by Bolton and Mink was selected by the City Council, and the developers and the city have since entered into a memorandum of understanding for the project to go forward pending rezoning and site plan approval. The proposed development includes approximately 8,600 square feet of commercial space on the first floor. That would be a mix of restaurant, service, and retail. And then the upper 4 floors would include 76 residential units. Approximately 73 parking spaces would be provided on the site, with 40 of those spaces provided in the basement or the lower level, and then 33 spaces would be provided to the north of the building. The developer will also enter into an agreement with the city to lease another 25 spaces from the North Barstow parking ramp that's located directly to the west. As you can see from the photo here, included in your packet is the site plan, the building elevations, some conceptual photographs that were included in your packet. As shown in the submittal, the building is designed with a variety of exterior building materials, a variety of colors, textures, and includes multiple windows that overlook the river. The building also features an outdoor patio on the west side of the building, a public riverfront or promenade walkway along the south side of the building abutting the greenway. And I'll see if I can bring that up here. The first photo there would be looking at the southwest side of the building. The lower photograph there would be looking at the south portion of the building, kind of in the middle. That would be an entrance point for the building. The top photograph here, this shows the public walkway or promenade that would be along the south side of the building that would abut our greenway. And then to the left of that photograph, you begin to see a little bit of that patio that's on the west side. And then the lower photograph shows that patio that would be on the west side of the building. That would be a public space and also be able to be used for the restaurant. These are some of the building elevations that were put together by the developer. The top drawing there shows the south elevation, so that would be the one that would be facing the Eau Claire River. Let me just make sure I got that right here. Actually, the top one would be facing the north. That would be facing away from the river. The south drawing there would be the one that would be facing the river and the greenway. And then these elevations here, the one to the left would be the east elevation, so that would be the one that would be facing Farwell. The one on the right there, that would be the west elevation facing Barstow Street. This is the site plan for the project, and then the next one, this actually shows the landscaping plan for that. There is a series, the surface parking is located to the north of the building. As you can see there, there's a one-way drive that extends from Farwell Street over to Barstow Street. And then up right below that drive, you can see an area that has arrows going in both directions. That's actually the driveway that would go down to the lower parking, and that is off of Farwell Street. Down in this area down here, this is the portion of the south-facing portion of the building that would be facing the Eau Claire River. This would be the public promenade along here. This would be a 15-foot sidewalk public space that would be available to anybody to use. And we would still provide the connections from the greenway down below here up to that public space, and then this stairway. So the two connections that we have currently right now would be retained. The development does not encroach into the city's greenway, and as I mentioned, it does maintain the pathway connections along the trail that are at the lower level and then go up to the street level. The building itself will be set back 15 feet from the south property line, which is consistent with the city's greenway guidelines for buildings downtown. And then the building's design and scale is also very consistent with the Haymarket Landing building that's located to the west, and then the Chamber of Commerce building located directly to the east. The project also complies with the policies of the city's Waterways plan in terms of encouraging redevelopment of uses such as surface parking lots along the river into a quality mixed-use urban development. So it is in compliance with our comp plan and Waterways plan. This rezoning and site plan will be going to the Plan Commission on August 3rd. At that time, they'll be reviewing specific issues related to grading, drainage, lighting, parking, and then they'll also get into some of the landscaping issues also. With that, I think the developer is also online and can answer some questions.
Yeah, I do see them online. And before I get that far, I'll see, are there any questions for what Pat has presented so far? Pat, I did have one question. If you go to the first diagram in the packet, under the section with the rezoning file. I don't remember, oh, almost there. Oh, one more, I think. Yeah, I don't recall seeing in there. What is the significance of the 300-foot buffer outlining there?
Well, this is a map that we actually put together for Plan Commission and Council. As part of any rezoning proposal, we're required to send out public notices to property owners within 300 feet. So that red line indicates that 300-foot buffer, and then the parcels that are shaded in green, those would be the ones that would receive notices from the city.
Okay, thank you. Were there other questions for Pat?
Yeah, I have a question, couple. This is Ellen. My first question is just kind of procedural. Will we vote separately on a recommendation on the rezoning and then separately on the actual plan?
It's listed on the agenda as put together, so staff would be suggesting one recommendation for both. They're really tied together in terms of the rezoning and site plan.
Okay, and then the other question, thank you. The other question I have is that those buildings, Galloway Grill and I think Scooters, are currently using, I think, part of this property as patio space. Have they just been kind of squatting all this time?
The
I think
exist.
the aerial probably showed it best.
Yeah, if you go back to
Go back to the
the second one of the pack, yeah, you can kind of see right there, yep.
It appears that that is the case, that they have been using part of the city parcel in order to for that patio. So they're basically the back of their buildings, the rear of their buildings empty out right onto the city parcel, so that is correct.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you,
And
Ellen.
then,
Go ahead, Ellen.
Sorry. One more question. This is a Robert's Rules thing. Do I hold my comments on the plan until we've had a vote or a motion to consider it? Is that how this goes?
Yeah, right now we're just giving questions to the presenter, so Pat, and then Justin Ernst from Bolton and Mink. I'll allow, see if he wants to speak, and then after we have a motion on the floor, then the commission can discuss the motion.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Any other questions for Pat at this point? If not, I do see in the attendee list Justin Ernst from Bolton and Mink here, except my computer is now sluggish. Justin, if you can hear me, you can unmute yourself. I'm having difficulty. Sorry, this computer has been a little sluggish during the meeting. I'm trying to get it back. So you can, okay, here we go. Okay, Justin Ernst, this is Joshua Miller, the chair of the commission meeting here. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, were you want to, I don't know if, I hope you've heard everything discussed so far. Did you have anything to present to the commission regarding this plan from your point of view?
I do not. I think Pat did a good job of explaining kind of the whole thing, what we're proposing to put in there. I can take questions at this time, or we can wait. It's better to me.
Okay, certainly. I'll keep you unmuted here. Does any members of the commission have questions for Justin regarding any of the specifics of the site plan?
Josh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, this is Susan?
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I had a question about, it's hard for me to tell in the drawings. Is the setback mostly a steep slope, or is it fairly flat?
It'll be flat because there's a retaining wall along that existing trail connection there. You can kind of see it there on one of those pictures.
Yes.
So that trail connection where you go down from the parking lot is the retaining wall that makes that flat. So the existing parking lot actually goes past the property line a little bit. So everything will generally be in that same elevation-wise.
Yeah.
The reason I'm asking is because from the other, the farther back views, it looks as though this is sort of the building is sort of in a line with the chamber building, and the chamber building has always seemed to me so close to the water.
Now this is Pat here.
In reality, there's very little space between the bank of the river and the building itself. So will there be more space here?
Yeah, this is Pat here. Actually, the area in front of the chamber building, that is a narrower greenway area. This area here between Barstow and Farwell, it's a wider greenway area, and there will not be any significant reduction in what you see out there right now in terms of the distance between the river and the top of the bank. The building will be built up where the where the parking lot is and actually set back further from the curb, so there won't be any appreciable difference in appearance of the greenway there.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Susan. Any other questions for Justin or Pat?
I have a question, and you may not be able to answer it. I went through the site today, and 5 stories is considerably than any other building on that side of the river. Even the RCU building, 4 stories tall. But I acknowledge that those are tall stories. So I wondered if you knew how it compares in height to, say, the RCU.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that last part, how it compares in height to, and you cut off a little bit?
The RCU building,
Okay.
Because I think that would be the next highest building on the whole north side. I would not expect anyone to know the answer to that question. I tried to figure it out myself, but wondered.
Just been talking with Dave Solberg here. The RCU building is 63 feet in height. This building would be, yeah, maybe the architect can explain how tall this building would be.
Justin,
66 feet high is what the plans say. I just don't know how that compares to visually to others.
So this actually would be a little bit shorter than the RCU building.
Little less tall. Okay. Thanks.
Excuse me, this would be 3 feet taller than the RCU building.
Okay.
I'm sorry, how tall was this building listed? Ellen, you had the number for the height of this building?
I think the plan said almost 66 feet high.
Oh, 66 feet, okay.
Yeah, it's like 60 feet plus another 5 to the roof, so it's roughly around 66. Pretty close.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, any other questions for Pat or Justin? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion to recommend the rezoning and the site plan?
This is Susan. I move that we accept the rezoning proposal.
Although the presented motion is for a recommendation and site plan. At this point, we're just looking for a motion and a second to open discussion on this, and then a vote will come later. So if there is discussion, we can do that once. But I think to proceed, we need to have a motion and a second if we want to discuss it.
Are you talking to me?
Oh, I'm just talking to the commission in general. Or
So you're saying it needs to be a motion that includes both the rezoning and the design or the site plan as it's presented to us?
Pat says that is correct.
It doesn't seem to me like we've... Well, someone else can make a different motion. I'm having trouble hearing Josh.
Yeah, sorry. I'll step back. No one is obligated to make a motion or a second. I'm just so I'll just restate. Is there a motion to approve the site plan and rezoning?
It seems as if there is not a motion.
I'm sorry. You got cut out there. Who is speaking?
This is John.
Okay.
It seems as if there's not a motion, a movement to discuss this further.
This is Susan. I definitely wanted to discuss it further, but it does seem like a lot to have the rezoning and the whole design and everything about it all in one motion. Even though that's the way it is on the agenda. So if someone else doesn't mind that and they want to make the motion, fine. Or otherwise, I'm a little reluctant to make a more complicated motion because I'm having trouble hearing what's going on.
This is Pat here. I guess just to kind of clarify, the rezoning and the site plan are really tied together, since the proposed zoning would be central business district planned. The plan part of it relates to the site plan. So they really are one and the same.
And that includes the whole design of the building and everything about it?
Correct. And again, the Waterways and Parks Commission is reviewing this building in relation to the Waterways plan and the Greenway guidelines in terms of how it relates to the Greenway along the river. The actual design features of the building itself in terms of parking, lighting, and those types of things will be issues that will be reviewed by the Plan Commission. So you're looking at it in relation to the Waterways plan and its relation to the Greenway. And as I mentioned...
And that includes the aesthetics, right? The aesthetics of the building and its position on the waterway.
Right. And the Greenway guidelines indicate that buildings along the Greenway should have a variety of textures, design features, and landscaping. Within the downtown area, they recommend that it be up closer to the top of the bank in comparison to outside the downtown area. This building is in compliance with those Greenway guidelines.
If the only way that there can be a record of discussion about this proposal is that we accept the proposal, I will move it. So moved.
I'll second it. Joshua. Okay.
I'm sorry, there's some noise here. Ellen, did you make a movement?
I did.
Okay. And Ron, could you repeat that again?
Yes, I will second Ellen's motion.
Okay.
To go ahead and approve a rezoning and site plan.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second. Is there further discussion to be had on the topic?
Yes. Oh, go ahead, John.
Yeah, I would like to say something about this. And I appreciate whoever put together our packet with the purpose and authority of our commission here. And it has 2 bullet points that are supposedly our guiding principles. And one says building design and site layout and development adjacent to waterways should enhance the attractiveness of the natural setting. And I'm going to say right here and now, this does not develop the attractiveness of our natural setting. It's a big ugly building next to a beautiful river, okay? And should it stimulate an appreciation of the waterway beauty? No, it does not stimulate appreciation of the water's beauty. And point 2, the ultimate land use of the waterway corridor should be open space. Is it open space? No, it's a big concrete building. Recreation, is it recreation? No. And only that development which permits public access and enjoyment is physically, visually, and functionally consistent with goals of the waterway revitalization. Does this permit public access? No, it's for residents only. Yes, it does have first floor retail. We saw what happened with the first floor retail at the Haymarket building. We got a members only gym and a boarded up Foxconn property. And is it physically, visually, and functionally consistent with the goals of the waterways revitalization? Well, Pat seems to think so, but I don't think so. And I've talked to people on the city council and Aaron White, the economic development manager, and they're also proud to run this bill through and say they boosted the tax base or whatever. And this is the only downtown waterways space that is currently held by the city, and nobody's ever pitched it to the public that we could keep it as a public space. And I think that voters and the public of Eau Claire would like to keep it as a public space, and I did not vote to sell it, and I'm not going to vote to rezone it. I'm done.
Thank you, John.
Hey, Josh, this is Justin with Bolton Bank.
Yes, go ahead, Justin.
Can you unmute Joy from Merge and Steve Miller from Slingshot, who's on this call? They might have something to chime in on.
Okay, one moment here. Unfortunately, my computer's a little sluggish. As soon as I get my cursor back, I will unmute them. Please bear with me one moment here. Sorry, technical difficulties here. Let's see, I am okay. Let's see, I'm meeting Joy Hanneman and also Steve Miller to join in. Okay, so I'm not sure who, Joy or Steve, or where you want to address some of the concerns raised.
This is Joy Hanneman. I am a partner in the development group that has proposed this building. And John, thanks for your comments. I would really love to get all of the committee's comments on the table so that I can thoroughly respond, if that's all right.
Sure. So are you waiting to hear other feedback from the commission and then addressing that all together?
Josh, this is Ellen again.
Yes, go ahead, Ellen.
Unlike John, I would be willing to vote to rezone or recommend rezoning. I think the building itself is disproportionate to everything else that's in the neighborhood. It's substantially taller than all the buildings around it. Another thing in our guidance, the criteria for Waterways development is that it should not be a wall. And I feel like I'm kind of looking at a wall. I think the height's too much. I think it should be more. I would be open to it if it were more proportionately sized to everything else that's in the neighborhood as it is. It is literally going to cast its shadow on everything to the north of it. I think.
Okay.
So that's my concern.
Okay. Thank you, Ellen. Are there other members of the commission that wish to comment?
This is Susan, and I have a similar feeling about the building, that is that important criteria which says you don't build a wall right in front of the river. This is such a large building. It's much larger than what's behind it. It's larger than the buildings across from it and so forth. And it reminds me a little bit of over on the corner of Lake and Graham, I guess it is, where this one is set back somewhat more, but it's just blocking the rest of the world's view of the river from that side of the river. And so I feel also that it is out of proportion. I don't object to the rezoning. There's a beautiful park a few steps from this particular piece of property, so I don't think there's a shortage of ways to get to the river in this area. So that is not so much a concern to me, but I do think the proportion of the building overall is very, it's sort of a monolith on this particular site. Is certainly sort of really out of proportion of the older buildings that are behind it. And So I don't agree with John on a lot of things, but I certainly think it's okay to develop this thing which we had a discussion about long ago, which you probably didn't vote for then either. But I do wish it was somewhat reduced in scale.
Okay, thank you, Susan. Are there any other members of the commission that wish to comment?
Hi, everyone. This is Jenny Sterling. I do have a concern that is very similar to John and Susan's. Ellen, I believe as well. It's just too much, too close to the river, in my view. I don't think we would be doing due diligence, if we blocked the views of everyone to the north of that building. In addition, this building reminds me a lot of a building, I believe, on Graham. That's maybe 2 or 3. It used to have some mental health services in it. I'm not thinking of the name of it now, but it's just big and tall, and it's mostly empty right now, I believe. I just feel like there are other spaces and places in our city that we can use for housing, and lots of empty spaces we can use for retail. I just think that this is too big, it's too much, it's too close to the river. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jenny. Is there any other member of the commission that wish to comment?
Yeah, it's John again. That is a very good point. There are a lot of empty spaces in downtown Eau Claire, level parking lots that are not being used. And the only reason they're interested in this piece of property is because it's riverfront. And they've looked around the Midwest, and this is the cheapest piece of downtown riverfront that you can find at $750,000. It's the city has given away the public property. And they can easily locate this building at Dewey and Gray Street. Would be a lovely place for this building. But no, they're only interested in the riverfront. And hey, as a citizen of Eau Claire, I'm interested in riverfront too. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Any other members of the commission wish to comment?
I have one question, kind of a different area. Is some of the housing that's proposed here intended to be moderate in rate? What will be the rate structure?
I see Joy or Steve or Justin, you're currently muted. If anyone has information about that question about the rates of the housing.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, so is this Joy?
Yes, this is Joy.
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
So first, I would really like to address John's comment about us only being interested in waterfront property. Just to give you a little bit of background on myself and our experience with the city of Eau Claire. So first of all, I lived in Eau Claire for 5 years, went to college in Eau Claire, have family that is in the Eau Claire area, and my partner and I have looked at Eau Claire. I'm based in Madison today, but it's a likely relocation spot for us as we decide to grow our family. So I'm not disconnected from the community or disconnected from what's happening there or for the vibrancy that this community deserves. That's number one. Number two, this is the third proposal that we have brought to the city of Eau Claire by an RFP process. The first being a full block development on block 7. We were not selected. We were, I believe, the number 2 for the development of that site, which was a mixed-use project with housing, retail, and it included the Children's Museum. I thought it was a very thoughtful approach, but we were not ultimately the group that the city selected to work with. And when that went out to RFP a second time, we once again made another proposal that was turned down because by coincidence, we were trying to stay out of the Children's Museum's way. We wanted the Children's Museum to have a place in the city that we thought was appropriate, and ended up making a proposal on the same site that they did. So we are absolutely not only after waterfront property. We are after creating a vibrant place in the city that hopefully dialogues well with the waterfront assets that the city has already invested in. From my perspective, I've lived in the city of Madison for over 10 years after graduating from the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire, and I've always lived downtown. It's been my location of choice as a young professional because I was able to walk places. I was able to quickly access the bike paths and the waterfront assets. And there were days that I literally did not have to get in my car for a week. And that was a lovely experience for me to really become intimately engaged with the city and really love the place that I lived as a young professional that didn't go to school there. So the spirit of everything that I just described is in this building. And as far as a height perspective, we believe that those views and the active space, the welcoming space, whether it's a coffee shop or a restaurant, that promenade will be encouragement for the public to actually get out on the bike path. So everything that you're talking about when it comes to public enjoyment and height, we think that the height, obviously, it's creating views. Yes, it's for residential, but it's also on that, it's encouraging people to come off of the bike path and sit and enjoy the water close to it. So I definitely agree with the comments that you've made about how your waterfront assets should be used and maximized, and unfortunately we don't agree on how to do that. So if you have any other questions for me, this is a market rate housing development. We do try to really attract the young professional. So we have smaller unit sizes that are designed to be right-sized so that someone that is just starting in the city of Eau Claire it fosters affordability of the units. And from there, I think I'll just hand it over to Steve Miller from Slingshot Architecture to talk a little bit more about the architectural questions that came up regarding scale, dialogue with the waterfront, etc.
Okay, thank you, Joy. Go ahead, Steve.
This is Steve Miller with Slingshot Architecture. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes.
Great. Excuse me. So yeah, we work with Merge and Joy quite a bit, and like Joy said, this is our third proposal in Eau Claire, and this site is very exciting to us because of the relationship with the water. But we think that we are following the intent of the Waterway and Greenway document that you were quoting, John. We've really oriented the building towards the river and set it back 15 feet with this public pedestrian walkway, and we've oriented all of our restaurants and micro retail spaces so that it really creates a vibrant pedestrian experience along that promenade. And we're also lining it with trees to buffer that scale and create just a really pleasant, kind of sheltered place to be between the building and the waterfront. With all those, with the micro retail, we get, and really the whole logic of the building is based on this musical rhythm of that relates to our brain's desire to kind of be stimulated every 30 feet or so, 4 seconds at a walking pace. And so the setbacks in the building, the storefronts and the individual retail locations, not to mention the landscape on the other side, are all contributing to that kind of rhythm. And we think that it will really be a lovely place to be on that waterfront. Or, I mean, and it's really set back from the waterfront. I'm talking about the promenade that's up separate, like where the parking lot is now. And so all of the utilities, all of the parking is on the north side. So we're really treating the north as kind of the back of the building and the front as the river. So we're trying to be very deferential to the, you know, presenting our best face towards the riverfront. And it's also, I guess the height issue, you know, I think Ellen mentioned the shadow of the building would really just be, what would be in shadow is the parking lot behind the building. So that seems like a good thing. I don't know. I suppose it would. I don't know that the patio of the restaurant there that's in the parking lot now has great views of the river. They probably have nice views of the trees across the parking lot, but I think we're actually working to design a nice space that they could potentially use on the northwest corner of our site. But more importantly, I think kind of the trade-off of losing some of the openness of the parking lot with what you get with this pedestrian street that would be a really memorable and vibrant experience right downtown on this property, I think would be much better than the parking lot. And I think it'd be in scale with the neighborhood. Like you said, it's within 3 feet of the other building, the credit union building. And also the other, what is the name of the building, Kitty Corner across the river, that was Hamilton Landing. It's a similar scale to those. And we are stepping it back about 5 feet. So that's what, to kind of break down that, the monolithic quality that you were talking about.
Can I jump in, Steve, to ask one more thing?
Mm-hmm.
I think we've said micro retail, but haven't completely described it, just to address the Foxconn comment specifically.
Yeah, good point.
Pat, if you could maybe move to the site plan that includes the micro retail spaces, so we can explain exactly what those are. In 2018, when we made the proposal on Block 7, we interviewed several local business owners to understand what the opportunities and potential gaps were in what was offered in downtown. And we heard a lot of things, but one of them was very clear, was a waterfront restaurant. And then given our experience in other communities, we've designed this concept of micro retail, which really cuts down on the cost of a new and young entrepreneur that wants to try their business out. And we locate the mechanicals and restrooms in a common area, and then offer, shorter term leases in the tune of 800 to 1,000 square feet so that folks can get up and get started. We have, as a group, experienced working with a variety of retailers from very large. We've got a project in the city of Oshkosh right now that the Oshkosh Food Co-op is going to occupy the first floor. A really exciting project because right now they're going to be in a former food desert. We've worked with obviously your fitness type users, boutique fitness, juice bars, salad shops. One of the things that we heard frequently from your downtown employers and employees was that there wasn't grab and go dining. So our goal in getting this project approved is seeking out those entrepreneurs that are looking to start those businesses, the grab and go, and really fulfilling the things, the waterfront restaurant, the things that we heard across the board from the leadership of RCU, the H&R, or I'm sorry, the Human Resources of JAMF, that this is what downtown Eau Claire is missing. So just so that you understand some of the background to how this plan came about.
Okay, Joy and Steve, thank you for your comments to the commission. Having heard these replies, are there any more discussion among members of the commission? And just so we don't go on too long, the Robert's Rules of Order to say that each person can comment, the commission can speak only twice on a motion, just so you know. So I think you're still allowed to, if someone wants to say something more, you have the opportunity at this point. Is there any other comments from the commission?
I guess I have one more question. I apologize if I'm beating a dead horse, but Joy, thank you. I mean, I appreciate the idea of sort of a new retail model and a diverse retail model. Would this building be viable if it wasn't 5 stories tall? If it was 3 or 4 stories tall?
No.
Thanks. Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Since most members of the commission have made a comment, I will just want to comment as a member and not as the chair. I would pass my gavel off to Ron if he were sitting next to me, but he is not. So just as a commission member, I mean, I do note that most of the larger buildings are on the south side of the Eau Claire River, but it seems eventually, taller buildings, I think, will come to both sides of the Eau Claire River. And, as far as the height is concerned, there's Pablo and the Haymarket and the RCU and JAMF. And even the Stone Store building is kind of tall, even given its age. And then again, with the promenade along the water, and there's still access to it. So, I mean, Eau Claire will eventually grow. And, this kind of fits this height profile of many other buildings down there. So, just as a member of the commission, I'm not super concerned about that, and having building on there seems better than surface parking. So I guess I'm a little more receptive to a taller building, but that's just my personal commission comment. So I will end that and go back to being the chair. Are there any other further comments from other people who want to speak on this before we put it to a vote? Okay, seeing none and seeing how there seems to be some differences in opinion on whether this is a good plan or not, I will call for a roll call vote. The motion currently is recommendation on rezoning and site plan. And as I go on the list, please indicate if you vote yes or no on the proposal. In no particular order on my paper here, I'll start with Jenny. Jenny, are you there to vote?
I'm sorry, yes. Say again your question.
Yeah, so since there will be probably a split vote here, I'm doing a roll call vote, so I'm going down the list now for a vote. And so I'm just starting with you. Do you vote yes or no for the recommendation for rezoning and site plan?
sorry, I need to vote no at this time.
Okay, no, that's your vote, so no need to apologize. John Lohr, I see you're here. Let me unmute you. Okay, my computer's a little frozen here. John, I'll come back to you. For now, I'll go to Ron. Your vote, please.
Ron votes yes.
Ron votes yes. Thank you. Susan?
Yes.
Susan votes yes. John Bodkin?
I vote nay on the rezoning and the site plan.
Okay, so that's a no. Ellen, your vote?
I have to vote no.
Okay, no. Okay, I'm going to try to unmute John Lohr. One moment. Hello, John. This is Josh. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. You hear me?
Yes. So we're taking a roll call vote now. Do you vote yes or no for this recommendation for rezoning and site plan?
I vote yes.
Okay. At that point, I now have 3-3. And then I haven't voted yet. And the chair, I believe, can vote to break a tie. Is that correct?
You're a voting member.
A voting member. Okay. On this proposal, I will vote yes. So the proposal will have 4 yeses and 3 noes, and the recommendation is approved. So thank you for the participants who called in for the meeting. And we will now proceed to the third item of business, the presentation of Carson Park Master Plan Public Survey. And that's Steve.
Good evening. This is just for information only. The City Council approved a master plan for Carson Park in the 2020 CIP budget. The city sent out RFPs in January, and from those RFPs, we got 10 responses. Out of 10 responses, we asked 4 firms to come in and do a presentation in front of the Director of Community Services, Senior Planner, the Purchasing Department, representatives from the Forestry, Parks, and Recreation staff. And then out of those selections, we all graded them independently, and we came up with a firm to do the master plan for Carson Park, which is MSA Professional Services. Just to note, Carson Park has never had a master plan that encompasses the entire park. There has been plans on facilities and amenities, but we have not looked at the planning of the park in a coordinated effort. This plan will focus on the active and passive areas along with the athletic facilities to provide services to residents and visitors in the park. We are currently doing a community-wide survey over SurveyMonkey, and that goes through August 2nd. You can access that survey on the city's website or the city's Facebook page. To date, we have over 1,700 responses, which is, I'm very, very pleased with that. There's a lot of views of what people need in the park, what they would like to see in the park, and what they want to keep in the park. So this is going to be a community-driven plan. We want to get as much input as we can from the community and also the users groups. We've we reached out to the people who use our football stadium, the softball, the baseball, and the horseshoe pit as well as the museum, the Paul Bunyan logging camp, and also the railroad. They're going to be part of some a user group survey as well. This is just for information only. It's to encourage the people to go out and participate in the SurveyMonkey to get their input. Again, that ends on August 2nd, and it can be accessed through the city's website or the city's Facebook page. I'm open for any questions.
Thank you, Steve. Are there any questions for Steve regarding the Carson Park Master Plan Public Survey?
This is Susan. I have sort of a question statement, if those are allowed.
Certainly, go ahead.
I kind of think there was a very comprehensive master plan for Carson Park in the sometime around 1990 or the late 80s. So I don't know what was left out of it. It was really broad.
I thought that was a maintenance plan.
The other thing I wonder about is what different mechanisms are you using for making sure as many people as possible know that they can take this survey? I mean, I think your number of results, that sounds really good, but, that's still a small number within the community. So I'm wondering what different methods are you using to alert people to this?
Last week I was on both News 18 and WEAU, and tomorrow I will be doing a radio spot with John Murphy for his community program. And I'm working with our public relations, Tess Morgan, to have a newspaper article next week prior to the August 2nd deadline. And was there a master plan for the entire park, Pat?
Yeah, this is Pat here, Susan. Your memory is correct. We did do a master plan for Carson Park. I believe it was in either 89 or 90, I think 89. We did take a look at the whole park. And essentially what we are doing now is updating that plan, since that plan is over 30 years old. So we want to take another look at it, contact all the user groups, get the community involved and see if we're on the right track or if we want to see some changes there. So really it's an update of that plan.
To me, Carson Park is one of our great assets as a city. And it's unusual in that the natural areas are, they're all secondary growth. There's nothing of the original forest left here. But there's a great deal of that natural environment that's in Carson Park. But on the other side of it, it has had maybe the most development inserted into the park, including the huge parking lot, which is so obvious in those two pictures you see on the survey. An older picture and a recent picture. It takes up a huge amount. And I remember participating in that earlier survey, and it was trying to keep development within the existing areas of development and not let it encroach further into the natural areas, and trying to preserve that balance within the park, which I think is an important point of view for the nature of Carson Park.
Thank you, Susan.
And I agree with that. It's a beautiful park, and there's a balance between the natural setting and the athletics, and we want to keep and maintain that balance.
Any other questions or comments from the commission regarding the public survey?
I have a comment. And one of our part of our mission on this commission is to disseminate information around the public. And I agree with Susan and everybody else that we should try to get as many people as possible to comment on this survey. And if you could send the link out on the Waterways and Parks Commission listserv, and I would certainly put it on my Facebook page or tell people about it or whatever. It's buried. I'm sure it's buried somewhere in the city website with a lot of other important information. But I don't know where it is, but I would help you spread it around.
Okay, we will get that link out to everybody tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Steve and
that's
John.
a cheap thing to do.
Yes.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Okay, thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the 2020 special events list. I'm not sure who's taking that. Oh, here we go.
Thank you. I am Dave Solberg. I'm normally the city engineer, but in Jeff Pippinger's retirement, I'm serving as interim Community Services Director. So I'll go through the special events that we have and then the director's report. So special events are down this year over, for obvious reasons. We have the Artists Market on Saturdays and the Farmers Market in Phoenix Park. Zumba in the park on the 22nd of July. Good Souls 5K on the 18th of August. And a Grand Evening on the Bridge that's normally on the Grand Avenue Bridge was looked at being relocated into Phoenix Park. That was queued up to go to City Council next week, but I think that's going to be pulled and brought forward a little bit later. There's some details that the organizers are still working through with the logistics, but the event was hoped to be held around the farmers market area in Phoenix Park at a socially distanced theme. So those are the 5 special events for July and August that we have currently scheduled.
Okay, any questions or comments on the special events list? Seeing none, we'll move to the director's report.
Okay, for the July monthly report in our parks divisions, we had 22 parks, forestry, cemetery staff members manning the barricades, parking ramps, and other assets for the 4th of July fireworks. There has been an effort to improve access for people experiencing mobility limitations in our park and recreation infrastructure. So completed in July were ADA sidewalks, Americans with Disabilities Act compliant sidewalks in Birch, Pine, and Oak pavilions, as well as the crossing into Bronze Bay and the Causeway crossing next to the white pillars that were recently refurbished. And there's a crossing behind the YMCA Tennis Center for a new portion of the trail. So I believe there are still a few more inclusions in that effort, but those were completed in July. We have a neighborhood park out by Westwood Park. There are some bridges that were in there. Is there 3 or 2? Two bridges in that neighborhood park that are being refurbished. Market and Johnson is taking on that effort. We have additional bridge work in Rod and Gun Park lined up for most likely in August. We placed the lines for on the school fields and soccer field for school and youth groups. Practices are allowed if they're socially distanced on city assets. As Steve mentioned, Mr. Plaza, we began the survey for the Carson Park Master Plan. And we have 2 new electric mowers. Mr. Thompson, with our streets department, is working on having 2 electric mowers deployed to mow at Jeffers Park and Forest Hill Cemetery. With the forestry division, they're continuing to grind stumps and fill holes. They've had 450 stumps that have been ground, and another 250 more are yet remaining. They're trimming and pruning trees. They're continuing with the emerald ash borer program with removing diseased ash trees, and they're dropping off the chippings from the trees that are removed to community parks when needed. With the rec division, Fairfax Pool and Hobbs Ice Arena are currently closed. Fairfax Pool has been closed due to COVID concerns and repairs that have been made. It's actually being filled right now. There's water in it, but they're testing the mechanicals. The water will not be treated, and it will be drained once it's gone through the mechanical tests and to make sure that everything is repaired as should be. Hobbs Ice Arena currently is serving as a shelter for our residents experiencing homelessness, and as long as the shelter is in there, ice usage has been limited and is projected to remain limited through August at the earliest. In honor of July as Parks and Rec Month, focus has been placed on the Adopt a Park or Trail program. The volunteer coordinator is working on projects with various businesses, groups, and individuals, including JAMP, Kurt Industries, Chamber of Commerce, Young Professionals, the Shawtown Neighborhood Association, and Cindy Slosher. So working on getting those those programs going. The rec team has been handing out fun packs at various neighborhood parks in the city to help keep families active to do outdoor summer activities. And water safety packs will be issued to the 2019 scholarship families in late July. They include new life jackets, which are of, they've been donated and they're of scarcity this summer because there is with the COVID pandemic, there has been incredible usage of water facilities and boat sales and so forth. So we're very fortunate to have the life jackets that are able to be given out. And they're sponsored by scholarship donations, the Water Safety Task Force, and the Regional Trauma Council. And then community baseball and softball organizations will be allowed to start playing games following physical distancing guidelines. The city leagues are not beginning, so our city parks and recs, but outside organizations that use city assets are able to play games as long as they follow a set of criteria that was approved by the incident command and the health department, kind of helping guide us through this COVID pandemic. So far, we have not had any organizations come forward requesting to play a game, but that is a possibility if they follow safe practices. And I would anticipate that demand would diminish rapidly as we go through August. And then to help encourage social distancing, the bleachers have been moved away from the fields to discourage the gathering as well. The Prime Times catalog is being worked on, and it'll be found online. I know there is some debate on whether to print or not and how the actual programs will be allowed this fall, but it is being actively worked on. And under special events, the Special Events Committee continues to work with groups that conduct special events, but it is very, very, very reduced in activity with requests that we've been having through this pandemic. But if there are events that can be held in a socially distant, responsible manner, then the Events Committee is meeting and considering those. With that, I'll take any questions.
Are there any questions or comments for Dave regarding the director's report?
Yeah. This is Susan.
Go ahead, Susan.
Who is the city forester now that Todd has retired?
Steve Plaza is acting. Yep, that was another title that he assumed.
John?
Yeah, as far as the ash trees go, if we notice declining trees around town, should we report that to somebody, or they're overwhelmed and on top of it anyway?
I think we would welcome notification if we see trees. I know they keep an eye on it, but just like anything, when city staff, if we can get a heads up from people if they notice something, whether it's ash trees or trip hazards or streetlights out, we welcome those suggestions. You can either call probably the Park, Cemetery, and Forestry office number, or there's an online, there's a spot online on the website that you can make that submission also, and then it's filtered out to the different departments.
Okay.
So yeah,
I made a report about some branches that were encroaching on a walkway a couple weeks ago, and I noticed they went over and fixed the problem, so good job.
I'm giving Mr. Plaza a golf clap right now for you.
Any other questions or comments regarding the director's report?
Quick comment. I have a quick comment in the good job department. I thought the fireworks were a really well executed event. I thought it worked really well from my point of view, to kind of bring the community together while keeping us apart. So thanks to everybody that worked on that.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, thanks Dave for the director's report. There's one other item not on the agenda tonight. For the second month in a row, I am presenting a certificate of appreciation. I will read it to the commission here. The certificate says, whereas Pat Ivory was hired by the city of Eau Claire on December 12th, 1984 as associate planner and later became senior planner of the city's community development department on March 21st, 2007. And whereas part of Pat's responsibilities as senior planner were staff liaison with the city's Waterways and Parks Commission. And whereas Pat has provided the commission with invaluable insight and direction on parks, open space, and waterway-related issues, as well as guidance relating to zoning restrictions. And whereas during his tenure, Pat has been instrumental in the completion of many parks and waterway-related projects, such as the Haymarket Plaza, Sundet Dog Park, Carson Park Playground, Owen Park Restroom Building, Half Moon Lake Management Plan, 5-year Parks Plan, Carson Park Causeway, and numerous other plan updates. And whereas Pat has worked tirelessly with community groups, neighborhood groups, the school district, and UWEC to promote cooperative agreements in order to enhance the park and recreation facilities of our community. And whereas Pat will now be retiring from the city of Eau Claire on August 14th, 2020, now therefore let it be resolved that the Eau Claire Waterways and Parks Commission and staff acknowledges the time, enthusiasm, and dedication of Pat Ivory to the Waterways and Parks Commission and the city of Eau Claire, and wish him the best in his upcoming retirements. Signed and dated July 22nd, 2020. We'll present this certificate to Pat now.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you, and yeah, thank you to Josh and
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you.
Pretty soon, Steve and Dave, there won't be a single title left in the city that they don't have.
I've enjoyed working with this commission very much. Some of you, just to provide a little background, the Waterways and Parks Commission was first created back in 1987. And before that time, there was a committee called the Beautification Committee that basically focused their work on parks. And one of the first things that when I started here in 1984, 1985, is that the city manager felt that back at that time that the city was not doing enough with its waterways and basically had turned its back on the waterways and wanted to see more done. So he asked me to put together a report called the River Plan, and there were 8 community members that were selected to a task force that I worked with. And out of that plan that was done back in 1985, one of the recommendations was basically to create this commission, the Waterways and Parks Commission, to kind of refocus their efforts not only on parks but also on the waterways. So it's interesting over the 33 years that we've been able to do that and really focus our work on both the parks and the waterways. And I think we've done a lot of great things along our waterways and parks with our trail system. We're over 40 miles worth of trails within the city. Most of those, or many of those, are along our waterways, and we've had just so many nice improvements. And Dave has been instrumental in many of those, and I like to feel that I've been, played a small part in some of those. So a little bittersweet retiring, but looking forward to that, but I've enjoyed my years here with the city, and thank you.
Well, thank you, Pat, and thank you for the history, how you're kind of the godfather of the commission. I didn't even realize it sitting over there. And as chair of the commission for the past couple of years, Pat makes these meetings run extremely smoothly. He's got all the data there, all the knowledge, all the zoning and the setbacks and all the knowledge we usually have for questions and answers when we need technical details. So that's been invaluable not only during my time in the commission, but all the decades before that. And I'm sure your presence will be missed, and we wish you well in your retirement.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. If there's no other congratulatory comments for Pat, at this point, we would take a motion to adjourn the meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Ellen and Ron. I'll say Ron motioned and Ellen seconded. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
This program was brought to you by a cooperation between Newsworks and the City of Eau Claire. A transcript of this meeting is available for the hearing impaired. It will be available within 7 days of this telecast. Call 715-839-4912 or TDD 715-839-1689 or write Eau Claire City Clerk, P.O. Box 5148, Eau Claire, Wisconsin 54702-5148. Newsworks is made possible by continuing community support. If you would like to volunteer or make a donation, please contact us via phone at 715-839-5067 or online at valleymediaworks.org.